Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back. This is your English teacher, Alex. Today is April 28th of 2020. So in our last video, we finished Unit 7, which was about grocery shopping. And now we're going to begin Unit 8, and it's about work. So when we talk about work, we think of jobs and occupation. The jobs is like what we do to make money, right? In a way. So, and then occupation is what I'm doing right now. Like, what's my status? So, I wrote some occupation or jobs that you would have in the following field. So we have supermarket, hospital, restaurant, school, and government. I mean, obviously there are so many jobs out there, but you know, it's impossible to go over everything. So I'm just gonna go over some general ones that we all know of. And then we'll do a little bit more talk about it, okay? So supermarket. So in Unit 7, grocery shopping, we learned about grocery shopping words, right? Or like items. But in there, for a job at a supermarket, we have a cashier. Someone who checks out your items. So where they it's where they receive money, so you can get your own your item. You can purchase them. A stock clerk. A stock clerk is a person who so if we run out of or if they run out of oranges, or it could be vegetable, fruits, or anything, any item, like it could be cookies, milk, whatever, at a store, then a stock clerk would fill it up. That's their job, filling the stock. That's what a stock clerk. Hospital, very easy. Everyone knows we have a doctor and a nurse, you know. Restaurant, we have a chef, a person who cooks the food. A manager who runs the restaurant. It could be talking with customers, or talking how to get certain items. From the meat market to fish market or the vegetable market, right? A waiter who takes your order, right? Goes to, you're at a restaurant, you're ready to eat, there's a waiter, they come to you, and then you order food, and they take your order and bring it back to you. And then a waiter is something that you would use for a man. So a waitress is for a woman, right? A bus person. So here I call it a bus person, but in America we usually call a bus boy or bus girl. They're usually the reason we call that is because they're usually young kids or that are doing it. And then this occupation is where so after we finish eating, they're the one who cleans up the table and take all the dishes and the forks, the utensils and everything. And then we have a bartender. Bartender is a restaurant, they serve alcohols, right? And they have a bar area. Those people who serve alcohols or beverages of those kind are called a bartender. School. Very easy. We have a teacher. We have a student. So student is not really a job, but we call student as an occupation. I just put it there to show the difference, occupation. So occupation could be also, so when we think about jobs, we think about someone getting paid, right? That's correct. Occupation is more like my status. So for example, there are, a lot of women who doesn't actually work, but they're a housewife. That's an occupation, right? Because they need to take care of the house. So student is also an occupation. You don't get paid, but that's what you are, right? And there's professor. A professor is someone who teaches at college level. So a professor and teacher is different. The level of teaching for a teacher is from like kindergarten to high school, right? But if you want to be a professor, you're teaching at a college environment. And then we have a principal who kind of runs the entire school as a unit. Because they need to take care of the teacher and the student and then the entire system. And a counselor is someone that if students have problems with, let's say, like what's going on around in the school or classroom, the students to students or student to teacher relationship, if something wrong, counselors are the people who students want to talk to, or even parents. And then we have government. Government, we have police officer, a mayor, a mailman, a governor, a firefighter. Those are the jobs that you will get if you work in the government. I mean, and as I told you, there are so many jobs that I just I can't mention because there's so many. And other jobs are such as engineers, lawyers, businessmen, secretary, pilot, actor. And if it's a female actor, then we call actress. So for jobs and occupation, there are a specific title to them, and sometimes it can be different based on if you're female or male. For like engineer, there's no differences in female or male. Lawyer, no difference. But when it comes to maybe, here I use the word police officer to not distinguish the man and woman, but sometimes you're able to say policeman or policewoman, right? And then let's see. Yeah. So these are jobs and occupation that are well known to others, and some of them you should already know of. And then the reason that we're learning this in this unit is because we're going to talk to people, right, about what I did in the past and what I did in the present, right? So right now I am an English teacher, but in the past I was actually a student. So we're just learning these terms so that when we see a person, we can identify what kind of jobs they have or occupation at a certain setting. So if it's a supermarket or hospital, restaurant, school, because there are people, it could be a doctor who's wearing a doctor's uniform at a restaurant trying to eat lunch, but if a doctor has the doctor's gown, and we are able to identify that person is a doctor, right? Even though they're in a restaurant. So I think this is something important to see. The way to identify a person. So now let's go further with this. Okay, now continuing on, since we learned about, or kind of discussed about what jobs and occupations are, now I'm going to talk about a grammar that we're going to focus on, a simple passive be. So this is the part where, so sometimes you have to talk about your job history, right? So for example, let's do this. So this is my timeline right now. So in 2010, I was actually a high school student, right? But now I'm an ES teacher teaching students how to speak English, how the grammar works, you know, how to read. So this is something that you can talk with your friends about, or something that you can talk with someone new, or at your job interview. So if I were to say my job history, so I was a high school student in 2010. I was a high school student in 2010. I am an English teacher or ESL teacher now. So I'm talking about my past first and present. So what I'm doing right now. So right now I'm an ESL teacher. So here, so in order to talk about present and future, or present and now, this is the phrase that I would use. And then it's important because when we're discussing about jobs, you know, there are some people that might be curious of what other people's jobs are, right? So when you talk with someone new, and when you try to make a conversation, sometimes you're like, so what do you do for a living? You know, I said, oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. Or I'm a construction worker. I'm a nurse. You know, those are things that you want to talk about, right? So we have to use what we call a simple past to be. So here, what those are was, wasn't, were, weren't. So simple past to be. So if we want to use was, we have to use it with pronouns I, he, she, and it. And if we want to use were, we have to use the pronouns you, we, and they. So let's. I'm gonna try to make a question. So question. Someone is gonna ask me like. So I'm gonna. Let's see. I'm gonna go with this first. So here. Was he a student? Was he a student? If I said was he, so I'm gonna write down was he a student? And then someone's talking about me, let's say. Was he a student? So was he a student? So in the past, I was a student, right? So I could say yes, yes. But since here, remember, we said was he. So we have to keep the pronouns. So it says he. So we have to say yes, he. Same thing, was. So we gotta make sure that we're using the right pronouns that's connecting with the right simple past of be, which is was and were. So another example, but let's say I wasn't a student, then you have to say no. Oh, I'm gonna put it right here. He wasn't no, he wasn't. And then here I'm talking about right now. So in the past, if I was not a student, so was he a student? And if it's a no, no, he wasn't, right? The negative form of was is wasn't. And then I can talk about right now. Or if his occupation wasn't a student back in the day, and let's say it was a teacher, then I say, no, he wasn't. He was a teacher. Okay. I'm gonna do more examples. Give me a second. Okay. Back with my eraser. Okay, so let's do it one more time, or a couple more times. So I'm gonna erase this. Okay, I'll use a different color to make this better. Okay, this is one. So, if you can see this, so the blue underline here is for these be verbs. So was and were. The same thing here, here, and here. Oh, there's a period right here. And I'm just trying to make it easier for you. And then the red is the pronouns, the red. So remember, so it's important that you match the verbs, the past be verbs, and then with the pronouns. So here, let's do another one. Let's do with the were, okay? For were, if we want to use were, the pronoun has to be you, we, or they, right? So here, if I said you, so I'm going to say, were you? I'm going to say were. Then I have to say this. If I want to use a pronoun you, so you were you, then I have to use were to ask a question. Were you a student in the past? So were you a student? So were you? This question is yes. So if someone asks me were you, then I have to say I have to say I, right? So yes, I was. So here, it's also important to notice that when you ask questions and when you answer, it's also different. So for example, if we were to use the pronoun he or she, we can just answer it back as, so for example, was she a student? Yes, she was. See, it's matching because we use pronoun she. She follows here, so if she is used here, you can also use a she here. But if we, for this case, when we use the pronoun you, were you a student? So, were you a student? And then I have to respond. So I have to say, yes, I was. I was. But if I use the pronoun I have to match with I, the be verb. So if we use I, it has to be was. So if the question could be, were you a student? Yes, I was. And then it could be, no, I wasn't. I was. Sorry about that. I was a teacher. So I wasn't, so if it's a no, let's say I had a different occupation. No, I wasn't. I was a teacher. That's what you want to say, right? So right now, the pronouns that I used were only singular. So I use he, she, you, and I. Now I'm going to use more than one person, so it's plural. So let's see how that changes. It's a little messy, bear with me, sorry. So now, question, I'm going to use we, or they. So when you ask a question, it has to be about the other person. So, were they a student? Were they? Were they a student? That's wrong. Because we're taking more than one person, so we have to say, were they students? So here, we don't want to say a student, because in singular we do, but if it's more than one person, we have to make sure it's plural, right? So were they students? So I cross out a, and I have to add an s. So were they students? And if they were, yes, They were. They were. No. If it's a no, they. Oh, sorry about that. They weren't. They were. So it's not a teacher, right? It's not a single teacher. So we say teachers. So it wouldn't be this. So bottom here, teachers. So one more time. Were they students? Answer. If it's a yes, yes they were. If it's a no, no they weren't. And then I have to say what their occupations were, right? Because I'm saying that they weren't a student. So what are they? So they were teachers. So yeah, you just gotta match the pronouns and the be verbs. Okay, this is the same rule that we've been talking about on and on and on. I know it might be too repetitive, but this is important. Okay, you need to know what pronouns goes with what be verbs. Okay, and that's it for part 1 of today's video. I'll see you on part 2 and part 3.